Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is from the corner of your eye in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 1. It's not like Sasuke's surprised a boy has fallen for him, too. There are enough girls after him, it's be stupid to assume everyone in their class is straight. Some guy might want to be Mr. Uchiha, and he doesn't really care. No, the surprising part is that it's Naruto. Sasuke doesn't know a lot about romance. He doesn't really care to, not right now. But what he has picked up from his admirers is that you are genuinely very nice to your crushes. All the girls act like everything he does is perfect, as if he can do no wrong. Naruto doesn't. He argues with him, he never agrees with him, he fights back at every opportunity. If it wasn't for the kiss, Sasuke wouldn't have a clue. But maybe that's how Naruto deals with his crush? It's not a guy thing. Sasuke isn't stupid enough to think there's an inherent difference in girl crushes versus boy crushes versus other gender crushes, so it must be a Naruto thing. Constantly fight with your crush and be a rival. Huh. A rival isn't a bad way to go about things. Too bad he's not interested. He catches himself staring at Naruto out of the corner of his eye, sometimes. Whether it's spamming clones so they can weed the garden faster, or throwing himself wholeheartedly into catching Tora, he's always pushing himself. It's interesting. Maybe if he wasn't keeping an eye on Naruto, he wouldn't have noticed, but Sasuke is, so he does. Kakashi dismisses them for the day, and disappears. Sakura gives him an apologetic look. She asks him to hang out almost every day, but not every, and babbles out something about helping out her dad and runs off. He squints at her, watching her wring her hands together, turn red, and then flee when he offers up no response but a grunt. Naruto waves as she leaves. Bye, Sakura, he crows, and Sasuke turns his squint onto him. The other boy doesn't seem even slightly tired from their missions. It doesn't matter that he made over 30 clones over the course of the day to help patch the roof, Sasuke had kept track, or that they had had to chase down that god-forsaken cat. Naruto, it seems, has stamina. He catches Sasuke's squint, and glares at him. What are you looking at, bastard? Sasuke ignores the insult. He's quiet for a moment, mulling it over in his head. Are you going to train after this? It's hard to resist a smirk at how startled Naruto is. What? He rallies quickly. Of course. I need to train lots if I want to be the Hokage. The Uchiha surveys him for a moment. You have a lot of stamina. Spar with your clones until you're too tired. It might help. Naruto stares at him, thunderstruck. Sasuke waits. 1, 2, 3, 4. He manages to count all the way to 11 before the other manages to speak. Why are you telling me this? He's suspicious. Sasuke approves. He smirks, before turning to go. If you do that for a week or two, I'll start sparring with you. But you need to get good first, idiot. He ignores the sputtering and yelling at his back, and keeps walking, hands in his pockets, all the way back to the compound. Sasuke wonders if this counts as flirting. Naruto, apparently, is actually taking Sasuke's words to heart. He shows up every morning tired, and naps on the bridge, sprawled out like a starfish and snoring. He's rejuvenated and fresh by the time Kakashi finally shows, so a nap must be all he needs, but it's a bit of a damper on Sasuke's morning. Without Naruto there to argue with, Sakura can focus only on Sasuke. It's annoying. He brings a book from the Uchiha library, and still, she doesn't stop. She leans over his shoulder and tries to read it, and he has to hide it from her because it's Uchiha clan material and not for nosy teammates, and she pouts at him. Sasuke. I just want to read it. What's it about? Sasuke sighs. It's clan techniques. You can't read it. She droops. Oh. Okay. Sakura stares at her feet, and Sasuke starts to wonder when he became a bleeding heart. Is this why they're put on teams? To make them actually care about people? That man's team had died and quit around him. No wonder it didn't work on him. Sasuke frowns down at his book for a few more moments, listening to the birds chirp nearby and Naruto's quiet snores. Don't you have any books to read, Sakura? She blinks at him, surprised. No, I don't. He frowns. Bring one next time. Check one out from the library if you don't have anything at home. He has no idea if her parents are civilian, or ninja. He knows they're alive, because he'll never forget that exchange that made her more abhorrent for him and made him soften slightly towards Naruto, but he knows no details. He doesn't care to. But for now. Sasuke reaches into his bag and pulls out a second book, offering it to her. It's nothing fancy, just a book on elemental ninjutsu. He had brought it along just in case he needed something less secret to read. You can read this for now. Take care of it. She takes it reverently, holding it carefully in her hands. Sakura's face is bright, is the sun, cheeks red, and teeth gleaming, and she beams at him. I will. Thank you so much, Sasuke. They read until Kakashi arrives, jumping lightly down onto the bridge railings. No one greets him, and his eye curves up in a smile as he reaches out to ruffle Sasuke's hair. The boy scowls as he tucks his book away, and Kakashi's eye smile just crinkles further. Good job, Sasuke. He averts his eyes and tries to will away the blush that's risen to his cheeks. It doesn't work. Exactly 1 week after he told Naruto to train, the blonde shows up wide awake to their morning meeting. He sticks his finger in Sasuke's chest, in his personal space, and grins. Fight me, Sasuke. Sasuke swallows down the quip he wants to make. He doesn't want to actually flirt with this loser, and smirks, instead. Are you sure you're ready? Predictably, the idiot takes the bait, his grin turning into a scowl. I trained for a week. You said if I would then you would fight me. The Uchiha resists the urge to correct him, and flickers off the bridge, instead, over to the grass. It's wider here, better for a spar, and the only thing they'd destroy would be the trees if they're not careful. After a moment of surprise, Naruto heaves himself off the bridge and runs over, grinning widely. Sakura follows, less sure of herself. Sasuke. Naruto, are you sure? Master Kakashi might not dash. Sasuke levels her with a look, and she squeaks and stops. I need to get stronger, he says, simply. I need to spar for that. If you get strong enough, I'll spar with you, too. Left unsaid is the fact that she isn't strong enough, not by far. He's sure that Sakura is smart enough to read between the lines. From the way she wilts, he knows he got her. Surprisingly, Naruto picks up on it, too, and scowls at him. Hey, Sakura's awesome, bastard. She's really strong and her punches hurt a lot. I'm gonna beat you and then you're gonna apologize. Sakura doesn't seem to know what to do with that avid defense. Quite frankly, Sasuke's not sure what to think about it, either. To be fair, Naruto would know. Sasuke's never gotten punched by the girl. Fine, Naruto, he concedes, giving the other a smirk. If you beat me, I'll apologize to Sakura. Naruto pumped his fist in the air, and then formed a familiar seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. With a poof of smoke, 5 other Narutos surrounded him, and Sasuke narrowed his eyes. Sakura, you be the ref. She nodded, straightening up. No weapons, just taijutsu and ninjutsu. Not like any of them knew any genjutsu anyway, but good idea. The spar ends when Kakashi-sensei shows up or one of you, she fumbles slightly. When one of you get in a spot where you could kill or knock out the other, if this was real. They both nod at her, waiting for her signal. 1, 2, go. Sasuke moves, a blur to the eyes, and takes out a clone. And then another, he dispatches all 5 easily, but Naruto has summoned 3 more, and Sasuke has to duck underneath a punch and sweep the feet out from one of the Narutos. This one hits the ground with a yell and doesn't poof, the real one, then. With the real one on the ground, Sasuke poofs the spare 3 Narutos in a few moments, before tackling the real Naruto. He pins him to the ground on his stomach, twists his hands up behind him, and sits on his back. Yield, he says calmly, and Naruto growls. He can't move, though, and Sakura calls it with glee. Sasuke won. Naruto growls again as Sasuke lets him go, pushing himself to his feet. He doesn't offer to help him up, and the other doesn't even look for it. Come on, let's go again. Best 2 out of 3. Naruto doesn't even seem slightly winded, and Sasuke considers this for a moment. Could be a good workout, if nothing else, and he smirks, taking a few steps back before giving his teammate a nod. Fine. Again. The smaller boy lunges forward with a yell, and it's on. Sasuke defeats him again. A third time, a fourth time. They might have even gotten to a fifth, had Kakashi not appeared on the bridge with a small puff of smoke, lifting his hand in greeting and as careless as ever. Naruto yells at him, Sakura yells at him, and Sasuke lets the tension of sparring bleed off from his shoulders as he shoves his hands into his pockets and wanders back over the bridge. Despite the fact that he won, he's breathing heavily, bits of his hair stuck to his skin with sweat. Naruto doesn't even look affected in the slightest. It's annoying. It comes to him that evening, when their missions are long done and the quiet darkness of his house is pressing in on him. Both of his teammates have crushes on him. Both of them. Naruto had easily been shoved into training the way Sasuke wanted, so he would be a better sparring partner. But why, had he never broken a sweat? Sakura lapped up the book he gave her, and could easily be persuaded to start learning more, one way or another, to get stronger. He refuses to let himself get attached. It was why he had isolated himself from Naruto all these years, though it hasn't, apparently, stalled the other's crush. He can't let that man have ammunition, can't handle the temptation for his eyes, can't do it. It's just, too painful, too. But Sasuke has to go on missions with these two, and training with these two will be easier if they were strong, and using their crushes to make them stronger will stop him from being dragged down as much. Yeah. It's a good plan. Chapter 2, Wave Arc. Sasuke doesn't get a chance to practice leading his teammates in the right direction too much. They only have a few more days, during which Sasuke goads Naruto into training even more, and Sakura reads through a book a day, which, if he's honest, kind of impresses him, and then Naruto throws a fit about their mission. Sasuke, kinda agrees. Yeah, it makes sense that genin are sent on these missions. He likes having the money, the less he has to pull out of the clan savings, the better. He's kept a total of how much he's used, because his orphan stipend doesn't cover everything, and he's started to slowly put it back. But he was the top of the class. Sakura was high, too, he knew that, even if he didn't know how high, and Sasuke wonders how much they're being held back by having Naruto on their team. At least, he would wonder, but Naruto is turning out to be surprising. He just wishes they would do more training, because all it seems Kakashi is focused on is team formations and correcting stances and making sure their throwing is accurate and Sasuke isn't going to get any stronger at this rate. So he welcomes the opportunity that Naruto's tantrum brings them, welcomes the fact that now they get to leave Konoha and escort someone, even if it's a drunken bridge builder. Maybe bandits will attack, or something, and he'll be able to do something. Anything. He impressed Kakashi once, and maybe he could impress him again and then actually learn something important and he catches Sakura by the elbow before they part ways to pack, though, and levels her with an intent look. She blushes. Bring some books, he instructs her, noting the way she perks up under the attention. You'll probably have time to learn. Of course, Sasuke, she chirps, flashing him a pleased smile, and he lets her go. He turns to Naruto, next, and squints at him. Oi! Idiot! Do you know how to pack a bag for a mission? He doubts it. Sakura does. Sasuke does. Kakashi definitely does. Naruto? Probably not. Naruto takes it like the insult it is and bristles. Oh, of course I do. You'll see. Sasuke rolls his eyes and opens his mouth, but before he can, the idiot's taken off after Sakura. Probably to ask her how to pack one, if he knows him at all. He looks up at Kakashi. Kakashi eye smiles back down. Sasuke frowns. Kakashi's eye crinkles more. Sasuke's lips fall into what is decidedly not a pout, and Kakashi ruffles the boy's hair. Ma, I'll go check up on him. You're a good teammate, Sasuke. The drunk bridge builder laughs and laughs at the way Sasuke's face turns red, and it's only the fact that this is their civilian client that stops him from punching him. Instead, Sasuke marches off towards his compound, trying to ignore his teacher's words. That hadn't been what he meant by it at all. Sasuke manages to hold his own against Tuchunin until Kakashi shows up, and it's a welcome fact. He can face Tuchunin and hold his own. Maybe he would have beat them with more time, maybe not, but he can hold his own. His teammates were useless, though. He can give Sakura a little credit. He supposes, she was in position, maybe she could have done something. But Naruto? Naruto did nothing. And then he almost bled to death. The moron. But that makes him think about Naruto, at least. And thinking about Naruto makes him remember how the idiot hadn't known a single thing about anything, hadn't understood about Wave or the cages or anything. He waits a little bit, until Naruto is all patched up and they're moving again, and he contemplates his words and Naruto, if you don't know basic information, you need to ask one of us. Naruto stares at Sasuke. Sasuke stares back. Sakura stares at Sasuke. Kakashi does that thing where he pretends he's not paying any attention but actually he's analyzing every bit of the conversation and I smiling fit to burst. Tajuna stares at Sasuke, cause everyone else is. Naruto swallows, as if something's caught in his throat, something painful lodged there and choking him. You. What? There's something pained in his voice, and Sasuke is abruptly reminded of himself, of how he used to be fragile glass held together by force and will and nothing else, and he looks away. Stares straight ahead and doesn't meet anyone's eyes and lets Naruto pull himself together. If I'm going to fight with you, I won't let you drag me down. So ask one of us. He pauses, and before anyone can speak, continues. Maybe ask Sakura first, though. She's the most book smart. It's not really a compliment, and it is at the same time, but he can see Sakura blush from the corner of his eye. She nods. Why yeah, sure, I'll answer your questions. Sasuke makes himself glance at Naruto, and while there's still something fragile in his face, it's overshadowed by a large beam he's directing at the girl. Thanks, Sakura. He pesters her with questions, even the next day, until they have to be quiet on the boat, and Sasuke is proud that Sakura didn't snap and punch Naruto a single time. Not that he disapproves of her punching Naruto. He really doesn't. Shinobi hit their comrades all the time, even from birth, getting them used to dispatching violence. It's never been discouraged. She answers all of his questions and Sasuke is unsurprised that Naruto has not even a simple understanding of what chakra is and something leads her into explaining the Hyugas and then the Yamanakas and so on and so forth. She's finished with the Akimichis and is about to go on to the Naras before they hit the boat, and Sasuke has never seen Naruto so attentive before. Huh. He'll have to capitalize on that. Then everything goes to hell. They almost die. Naruto proves to be very good at strategizing, must capitalize on that later, and seriously, someone needs to teach Sakura how to fight. And Kakashi has the Sharingan. They sit by his bedside after they've brought him to Tajuna's house, Naruto's clones helping the trio to carry him, and they stare. Well. Sasuke stares. He stares at the way Kakashi's forehead protector tilts, how it covers one eye. He had thought, previously, that his teacher only had one eye. But he has the Sharingan. From the way a scar covers it, and he only Hason, and he can't deactivate it, it seems like it was a transplant but that is. It is. It hurts. Seeing one after so long, even if it suddenly makes so much sense as to why Kakashi is his teacher. Maybe he actually can learn something from him, once he activates his own Sharingan. Hey. Naruto speaks up, and the two awake ninja dully turn their eyes on him. He's frowning, staring at their teacher, and apparently in deep contemplation. You told me to ask if I didn't get something, so I'm asking. What's up with Kakashi-sensei's eye? Sakura doesn't answer. She glances over at him, and Sasuke has never been grateful that she's his teammate, but he is in this instance. He inhales. Exhales. Swallows sharply. Speaks. It's called the Sharingan. It's a dojutsu unique to the Uchiha clan. Sasuke knows the only reason Naruto knows what a dojutsu is from Sakura telling him about the Hyuga yesterday, but the blonde nods as if he's known all along. But Kakashi-sensei's not an Uchiha, right? So how he'd get it? Sakura fields this one. Sasuke's grateful again. I think, it's probably a transplant, Naruto. Someone else had it first, and now Kakashi-sensei does. Naruto frowns. So where'd he get it? He snaps. From a dead Uchiha. He sneers, and doesn't feel bad about how his teammates pale, how his fists curl into tight balls on his lap and how he shakes with anger and something deeper he refuses to acknowledge exists. They're all dead now, where the hell else would he get it from? The other boy scowls at him. Bastard. Why are they all dead, huh, are you sure? Maybe there's more. Sakura bashes her fist on Naruto's head, and Sasuke realizes he's trembling. Idiot. Leave Sasuke alone. She yells, and she grabs him and she yanks. Sakura is probably the only one Naruto will listen to, and even if he doesn't she certainly has the strength to pull him along, and she does. They leave and they're loud and they slowly get out of the range of his hearing and Sasuke breathes. In, out. Inhale, exhale. And he stares at his teacher's eye once more. Because Naruto's question, while it's wrong, is also right. Did Kakashi pluck his eye from one of his dead relatives, post-massacre? The thought makes his heart clench. He hadn't burned the bodies. He hadn't burned them or disposed of them properly and could people have taken their eyes? He doesn't ask Kakashi about the eye, when he gets up. He doesn't ask Kakashi or say a single word about it. Sasuke accepts that Zabuza is alive, accepts they need to work harder, and he does. He throws himself into his training, though not as recklessly as Naruto, ashamed that Sakura has managed to beat him, ashamed that he doesn't have perfect chakra control, ashamed that he doesn't have his Sharingan even though someone else does, someone else who isn't from his team and probably a thief and then they fight. He gets his Sharingan, he gets that thing he had desired so much in this world. And Sasuke dies. He remembers his body moving, realizing Naruto was down and there was no way to stop the masked boy. There was no way to stop him, there was nothing, there was. I'm an Avenger, he thinks. He needs to survive. He should let the boy attack Naruto and then attack him while he's distracted and take him down but Sasuke can't let someone else die in front of him. He moves and it hurts but Naruto is safe and I don't, no, he says to Naruto, but he does. Kakashi was right the whole time, and it's a burning, unpleasant thought. He had pretended like he was manipulating them, pretended like he was just raising up his team to be stronger. There were no emotional attachments, he had lied to himself. He didn't care. They could be replaced tomorrow by more competent team members and he wouldn't bat an eye, he told himself. But he couldn't let Naruto die. I hated you, he whispers even as he can't feel his body. The lie falls from his lips so easily, or maybe it was a truth, once upon a time, but he can't admit it's true now. Why? Naruto demands, and he can feel the pain in the other's voice, feel the glass of his voice and of his being start to fracture. Why? Why me? I didn't ask for your help. No one asks to have someone die in front of them. Especially not if Naruto likes him. Does it hurt as much as family does? Does it? Sasuke can't make the guilt any greater. I don't know, he whispers, even as he feels his body fade. My body, moved on its own, he's crying, he realizes then, he's crying and he's going to die. Idiot. He collapses. Naruto catches him. His arms are warm. Sasuke wonders when the last time he was held was. Held like this, not the hugs his fangirls flung on him before, that he tried to avoid, not the holds some people gained on him in sparring before he beat them, but like this. Naruto's arms are warm and gentle, and he's oh so careful with Sasuke. The other yells, and Sasuke tries not to cry more. He's dying, here. He gave his life for his teammate, and he'll never be able to kill his brother. Avenge his clan. Somehow, that's never seemed less important. Naruto's eyes are wide and big and blue like the sky, and Sasuke tries to talk. Tries to tell him. That man, he whispers, staring at the blue, drowning in the blue. There's nothing left but the teary eyes of his teammate. Until I killed my brother. I absolutely refused to die. That's what I decided, but he decided to give his life for Naruto. He can't help it. Tears well up in his tired, black eyes and he tries to lift his hand. He wants to touch him, wants to touch Naruto, whose blue eyes now hide from him and he can't see them and please. His arm is tired. He's not going to last. You, please, he whispers, soft and quiet. Don't die. He thinks of the other. Thinks of this loud, boisterous boy who had been put on his team and who never gave up, who always bounced back, who wanted so desperately to be Hokage someday. His lips would curve into a smile if they could, but he's so tired. Too tired. Don't let your precious dream die. Sasuke wakes up. He doesn't talk about his death. His teammates don't talk about his death. Kakashi doesn't talk about his death. That's the way that Sasuke would prefer to have it, honestly. He doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to talk about how he gave up on his dream, how he was willing to die for Naruto, how he gave his life in an instant and could only think of how he didn't want him to die. Please Naruto, don't die live on and dream end. No. He doesn't really want to talk about it. After a few days, though, Naruto has gotten over his treat Sasuke like he's glass attitude and approaches him about a different question. One that Sasuke would prefer to talk to about even less. It's all three of them. Sasuke is sharpening a kunai. Sakura is reading a book. Naruto comes and plops down next to Sasuke. For a moment, the two of them ignore each other. Then. Sasuke, why do you want to kill your brother? Sasuke stiffens. Sakura stops reading. Naruto stares at his teammate with wide blue eyes, blue enough to drown in. The Uchiha stops. Breathes. Stares at the wall. He killed my entire clan. It's been a long time since he's verbalized this, it's been a long time since he's spoken of this, and it feels so fragile. Tenterhooks. I'm going to kill him. Naruto doesn't react like any of the others. No pity, no I'm sorry, no none of that bullshit. Naruto has never reacted like the others. He never has. Never will. He's scowling, instead. Damn right you are. We'll help you. Right, Sakura. The girl starts at being addressed, but after a moment, meets Naruto's determined look with one of her own. Yeah. We'll help you. We're a team, right? Sasuke stares at them both with wide eyes and then snaps. He'll kill you. He lunges to his feet, drops his kunai and snarls at them both. He'll kill you. He'll kill you both, and I can't let you die, Naruto, I dash. He needs to stop talking. He shuts his mouth and he stalks out of the room and he slams the door behind them. No, they can't help. Itachi will kill them. Itachi will kill them just for being close to him, because Itachi wants him to have nothing in the world and Sasuke won't let Naruto or Sakura die in front of him. Not if he can help it. Chapter 3, Wave Arc, Interlude. Sasuke doesn't talk to his team for 3 days. He ignores Sakura. Doesn't look at Naruto. He speaks to their hosts when it's necessary, and he asks Kakashi for training every day, but the other two genin? They might as well not exist. He can sense his teacher's disapproval every time he says no, but Sasuke doesn't care. They shouldn't have pried. Shouldn't have poked and prodded at all his weak spots until he feels like he'll break. Teams don't make you strong. Teams make you fragile. He finds this out, truly, on the 3rd day, when he demands training and Kakashi does his passive-aggressive, I'm so disappointed in you, I smile and Kakashi finally says yes. But you're still recovering, Sasuke, so I'll just take Sakura and Naruto. Sasuke's glass of water almost, shatters in his hands. He breathes in. Breathes out. And then shoves himself up from the table, pushing away and stalking out and ignoring the way that Sakura calls after him. He walks and then runs until he's through the town, down the path, up the hill, and he stops at their graves. Zabuza's grave, and the boy named Haku. He stares at them for a moment, stares at the sword of the deadly man who almost ended them, and the wooden figure marking the grave of the boy who could have killed him but showed mercy, and then he sits. That's where Sakura finds him, almost a half hour later. She stops, hesitant, not wanting to go any close and disturb him, and that's when Sasuke speaks. Sakura, he says, the first time he's talked to her in 3 days. How did they die? She starts. What? Sasuke glances at her, frowning. How did Zabuza and Haku die? What happened after he stops. After he died. After he passed out, after he... No, he doesn't want to talk about that. Sakura hesitates for a moment. She chews her lip, bad habit, you might bite through your lip while fighting or startled, and then she steps forward and sits next to him, carefully arranging her dress around herself as she folds her legs. Well, I don't know what happened right afterwards, but after Naruto broke through the ice. She talks. She tells him how Naruto had managed to beat Haku, had almost killed him, but how Haku had sacrificed himself for Zabuza. She talks about how Gato had shown up and kicked Haku's corpse, how Inari and the villagers came, how Zabuza cut them all down and how Kakashi had carried Zabuza so he could die next to Haku and... She's crying by the end of it, tearing up and emotional, and he doesn't flinch away when she leans into him. He allows it. Sakura needing comfort, Sakura seeking him, that's not new. That's normal. But Naruto managing to overpower and beat an opponent who could have killed Sasuke if he wanted to? That's the farthest from normal. They sit there together, quiet aside from Sakura's quiet tears as she tries to wrestle herself back under control, and Sasuke doesn't look at her. He gives her her privacy, because she's sensitive and brought to tears by others, and even if it's a weakness that will get stamped out he won't shame her for it. Instead, after a few moments, he reaches down and curls a hand around her wrist. He says nothing. Does nothing more, but it seems to help, and she slowly relaxes. After enough time has passed that it seems safe, he looks at her again. Her cheeks are blotchy and so are her eyes, but she's not crying anymore. Sakura, he says, relieved. Could you tell Naruto I want to talk to him? She seems disappointed, but nods, carefully getting to her feet and brushing herself off as he releases her. Okay, sure. He hesitates. Thanks. She deserves that much, at least. Sakura smiles, one of her genuine ones and not her fake cutesy ones, and he thinks he made the right choice. Anytime, Sasuke. Sasuke can't accurately judge time out here yet, he knows approximate time, but he doesn't know the exacts, but it feels like ages until Naruto stalks up the road and plops next to him. Interestingly enough, on the opposite side, different from where Sakura had sat. He's ungainly, legs sprawled out in front of him and leaning back on his arms, and he scowls at Sasuke. What do you want, bastard? I was training. He's so relieved by the utter normalcy that it takes him a moment to respond. How did you defeat him, he asks, gesturing to the Mist Nin's grave. Naturally, it takes Naruto a moment to catch up with the topic, but then he pales, surprisingly, and looks away. Why do you want to know? Sasuke frowns. I couldn't beat him. How could you? Naruto whips his hair around to scowl at him. Hey. I'm plenty strong, you know. I beat you when we sparred, and that boy beat me. Naruto's scowl deepens. His name was Haku. And he hesitates for a moment, torn, and forges on. He always forges on. We met, before the battle. I met him in the forest when I was training. He told me something, you know. Made me think. The blonde looks up to meet Sasuke's eyes, intent and dead serious. Sasuke's breath catches in the back of his throat. He said you get stronger when you protect your precious people. There's so many holes in that explanation, Sasuke thinks. So many things that don't make sense. Naruto had to pull the power from somewhere, after all, but all he can think of is, does that make me one of your precious people, Naruto? It makes sense. Naruto likes him. But there's a big difference between I'm like one of your fangirls, and I have a crush on you like so many others in the class and precious people. He needs to reevaluate. He needs to reassess. But right now Sasuke just needs to breathe, and he inhales and exhales and tries to speak. Oh, is all he can say. Oh. There always has been more of an unspoken understanding with Naruto than there has been with Sakura, and the other boy smiles as if he had said something profound, breaking through the clouds like a ray. Yeah. He was really smart. Sasuke doesn't want to think about that, about the boy who had shown him mercy and then had died, so he cracks his neck and then stands up, stretching slightly. Spar with me. Naruto lights up, bouncing up on his feet. Yeah. Let's go. Sasuke beats him 6 times. He doesn't seek out Kakashi until it's dark. Naruto and Sakura are asleep, sprawled out on the floor, when Sasuke clambers up onto the roof. His teacher is there, and Sasuke sits next to him, silent. Kakashi, unfortunately, isn't the kind to break the silence. So after a few moments, Sasuke breaks the silence. How did you get a Sharingan? He looks straight ahead and resolutely doesn't try to turn and see his teacher's face. There's a few moments of silence, and then Kakashi places a hand gently on Sasuke's head. Ma. It's a long story. Sasuke doesn't pull away. I have time. So you do. For the second time that day, Sasuke is told a story. He can tell there's plenty that Kakashi is leaving out, but it's really rather simple. Obito Uchiha was a failure of an Uchiha who was on Kakashi's Genin team. While they were trying to rescue their third team member, he shoved Kakashi out of the way and died for him. Before he did, Kakashi's third teammate, Rin, transplanted his Sharingan into Kakashi's eye socket. It's a lot to take in. Sasuke doesn't reply for a little bit, after hearing that. How do you respond to such a story? He remembers how Kakashi had said all of his friends were on the memorial stone, and he swallows sharply. Why didn't you tell me you had the Sharingan? Now, Sasuke finally looks at his teacher, and Kakashi looks down at him, one visible eye wider than normal. I thought you knew. I thought your family would have told you. It's painful, to think of them, when his pieces are only now sealing back together after the way his teammates prodded, but he shakes his head. No, they never mentioned you to me. Kakashi moves his hand to wrap around Sasuke's shoulder, pulling him into his side. Sasuke allows it. Ma, I'm very sorry, then. I didn't mean to keep it a secret. That was a relief. He got the Sharingan through normal circumstances, no corpse robbing, and he hadn't meant to hide it. That was good. Will you teach me how to use it tomorrow? Kakashi hums, and then nods. Not too much, though, you are still healing. He stays there, letting his teacher keep his hand and his arm on him, and doesn't shrug it off. He's too tired. Too tired to even get up and move away, no matter how embarrassed he'll be in the morning. He's sure that Kakashi won't let him forget it. Quietly, he vows to visit Obito Uchiha at the memorial stone as soon as they get back. Chapter 4. Kakashi immediately goes back on his promise the next morning. Or, rather, Sasuke is expecting more, and what Kakashi gives him isn't satisfactory. When Kakashi said a little, he meant it. Teaching Sasuke was the different amount of tomo in the having him practice activating and deactivating, things that Sasuke would know if he had grown up surrounded by Uchiha. Instead, he's being taught by Kakashi. They sit cross-legged in the same clearing where, was it really only days ago? The team had learned to climb trees, and stare across at each other. Remember, Sasuke, Kakashi says, very serious. You will remember everything you see with your Sharingan activated. He seems to be hinting at something important, but Sasuke can't see it and doesn't want to show that he can't see it. He already knows this, anyway. He remembers not dying as viscerally as if it had happened just a minute ago, and goosebumps go up on his arms. Kakashi notices, damn him. His teacher eye smiles at him. Come on, let's go back to the house and see how the others are doing. Sasuke frowns. I still have chakra. We can train more. That man had his Sharingan for years by the time he was Sasuke's age. He needs it, needs the training. Oh so badly. Kakashi shakes his head. You're still recovering. Not yet. It's true, when Sasuke stands up, that he feels shaky. Unbalanced, and maybe a little queasy. Very, very tired. But that doesn't mean he couldn't keep pushing, couldn't keep going, and he shoves his hands into his pockets as he surly follows Kakashi back to the house. He's being underestimated, and he doesn't like it. Sakura and Naruto aren't being underestimated, Sasuke thinks. Countless Narutos dot the bridge, being ordered this way and that way by the workers. Kakashi says they won't leave until it's done, and that they'll go home by walking instead of by boat, which means Naruto has been wholly enlisted to help out. The sooner they get back, the better. There are so many Narutos, in fact, it's hard to find his other teammate amidst the mess. You'd think it'd be easy to find bright pink in the middle of bright yellow, but apparently not. Sasuke furrows his brow, and turns to his teacher to ask, before arms come up around his shoulders. He stiffens. Barely resists the urge to toss the offending person over his shoulder, and Naruto's voice sounds in his ear. Hey, Sasuke, are you okay? It's just Naruto. Relaxing almost immediately, Sasuke glances to the side, to where his teammate is almost resting his chin on Sasuke's shoulder. The other's eyes are squinting at his face, mouth pulled into a thin line. You don't look so good. Before Sasuke can protest, Kakashi ruffles his hair. He pushed himself too hard. Go take him over to Sakura, okay, Naruto. Okay. Naruto chirps, excessively loud right next to Sasuke's ear, and the next thing the Uchiha knows is he's being dragged across the bridge and being manhandled into sitting firmly on a bench next to Sakura, who seems to have materialized from nowhere. He blinks at her, and then blinks up at Naruto, who's gripping Sasuke's shoulders tightly and forcing him down on the bench. He obliges, and the blonde beams. Good. With that, he plops on the other side of Sasuke, and it's all of Team 7, sitting right there on the bench. There's a few moment pause, Naruto swinging his legs and beaming, Sasuke staring straight ahead and contemplating when the fuck his life reached this point, and then Sakura giggles. It's nice to take a break, she says. Sasuke finally looks at her again, frowning slightly. She swims before his eyes, a little blurry, but Sasuke ignores it. What were you doing? She flushes underneath the attention and smiles. I was helping out Naruto. The idiot doesn't know where to put all the wood and stuff he's carrying. Naruto pouts. Hey, I thought we were working together, Sakura. The girl grins mischievously, shrugging. Ma, she says, imitating their lazy teacher. Maybe. I think I was doing most of the work. Sakura. They bicker, him sandwiched between them, and Sasuke lets it wash over him. He doesn't mind this. It's okay to be between them, to let them talk, and to not actually engage. Since he's part of this team, he needs to work with them. Since he's part of this team, being able to trust them enough to watch his back is probably necessary. But it doesn't mean that he has to be friends with them, or trust in them for more than fighting, and he closes his eyes as their bickering fades into the noise of the waves. When he wakes, it's morning. He hadn't realized he was that tired, and as he checks his chakra levels, he begrudgingly has to admit Kakashi was right. He had exhausted himself, and it galls to be that weak. Something had happened when he was asleep, it seems, and it means that Sakura gives him more attention than normal, that she's terribly mad at Naruto, and Naruto seems to waver between being terrified of her and unable to look at Sasuke. Sasuke promptly decides he really doesn't want to know. It takes them almost a week more until the bridge is done. Kakashi trains Sasuke on his Sharingan every other day until the world goes woozy, and he spends the off day recuperating and watching Sakura and Naruto work on the bridge. He's pretty positive that if it isn't for his blonde teammate, they wouldn't be leaving this quickly. Kakashi does know what he's doing. Sometimes. Of course, the moment they leave it turns out Naruto forgot a ramen ticket and they go back, and embroil themselves in a fight to save Inari, and then end up taking out at least a dozen thugs. Fun, even if they weren't ninja. Naruto can't seem to be happy with the whole winning a battle on their own without their teacher thing, though, and balls the whole way back to Sakura and Kakashi about his poor free ramen ticket. Finally, Sasuke snaps. I'll treat you to ramen when we get back if you just shut up. Naruto looks like Sasuke's given him the Hokage hat. You will? Really? Yes. He ends up tackled in a hug by the moron, and of course that's when Kakashi decides to jump down from the trees and congratulate them on a job well done. You did well, my cute little students. Sasuke curses him out under his breath. A few hours later, he curses himself out under his breath as they head back to Konoha because him and Naruto going to ramen together as Sasuke's treat. That sounds like a date. No wonder Naruto had hugged him for that. Thankfully, or not so thankfully, depending on your perspective, they can move a lot quicker without Tazuna with them. Kakashi teaches them all the traditional Konoha tree jumping, now that they had mastered the whole sticking to a tree thing. Add in using chakra to make longer jumps, and they are moving far more quickly. Sasuke would have thought they'd move at Sakura's pace, resting when she needed to rest, or maybe letting Kakashi or a Naruto clone carry her when she tired. He's wrong, and it's humiliating. He's exhausted from his constant Sharingan practices, and it looks like Kakashi is swallowing down an "I told you so" when Sasuke starts flagging. At first, neither of his teammates notice. Sasuke starts lagging behind more and more until finally he jumps and doesn't quite reach the next branch. He reaches out desperately with one hand, trying to catch himself that way at least, but his fingers fall short and he's falling and Kakashi scoops him out of the air, cradling him like a child. He lands lightly on the ground, with Sakura and Naruto quickly following suit after a moment. If you're too tired, Sasuke, you need to tell me, he chides, and the Uchiha is ashamed to realize he's breathing heavily, almost panting. Both his teammates' brows are knit with worry, and Sakura reaches out to put her hand on his forehead. He's hot, Kakashi-sensei, she tells him, and Sasuke frowns. I'm fine, he protests, trying to squirm his way out of his teacher's arms. Kakashi holds fast. Sasuke, he says, in the tone of one speaking to a small, dim-witted child. You almost died and didn't Naruto flinch at that, and then you pushed yourself too hard. You've exhausted your chakra, and you made yourself sick. Naruto peered into Sasuke's face, getting so close their noses almost touched, and Sasuke went cross-eyed, before pulling back. He'll be fine, right? Kakashi nods, and then says, with what seems to be glee in his voice, I'll have to carry him the rest of the way. Sasuke closes his eyes at that point. Just let him die, honestly. Sharingan or no, he's ready for this thoroughly humiliating mission to be over. Chapter 5, Returning Home. They weren't talking about the last leg of the run home. We're not talking about it, Sasuke says, his cheeks aflame. He tries to ignore it. It's just because he's sick. No, damn it, he's not sick. He's just warm. It's a hot night. Naruto still hasn't wiped that stupid grin off his face. He's been wearing it ever since Sasuke fell asleep about a half hour into his ride. Well, Sasuke assumes it started then. He was asleep, after all. Sakura, by contrast, is practically glowing. But Sasuke, you were so cute, she squeals, and the Uchiha is struck by the sudden urge to claw off his own ears. Instead, his cheeks burn even more. I was not. Naruto cackles. Yeah, Sasuke, you were so cute. Now, Kakashi intervenes, ambling away from the two gate guards, and Sasuke feels a hopeful tinge well up inside of him. Their teacher ruffles Sakura and Naruto's hair, smiling at them all as the duo squawks. All of my students are cute. There's a single moment of blessed relief, before he has to open his masked mouth again. But you're right, Sasuke was very adorable. Sakura giggles and Naruto guffaws, and that is it. He turns on his heel, ignoring the way they hush behind him as he marches past the startled guards. It doesn't matter that his vision is starting to tunnel, he knows the well-trodden path to the Hokage Tower and could walk it in his sleep. Still, not being able to see out the side is dangerous, so he blinks. Once, twice, a third time. And then Kakashi is right in front of him. He stumbles to a stop and Kakashi reaches out, gently taking his shoulder to stabilize him. Resentment and gratitude well up alike, and he stomps it down. Sasuke, the other says, and Sasuke stares at his teacher's vest, refusing to look up. I need to take you to the hospital. You're sick, and you got severely injured on this mission. You need to see a mednin. Sasuke knows his teacher is right, he's not arguing that, but he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to be poked and prodded by some mednin who will probably coo over the poor last Uchiha and sleep in a bed that's not his own, and the hospital always makes him remember the blood and the sweat and the... He stops. Boxes that thought up, tucks it away, and tries not to taste the bile in his throat. Kakashi's face is unreadable when he finally looks up, and Sasuke's grateful. He doesn't know how much of his tangled mess of thoughts were on his face, and he doesn't want to deal with his teacher's pity. It takes 3 swallows before he feels able to speak, and even then, he just gives a slight shrug and a fine. Nothing changes about his teacher's face, but he nods to the other 2 genin. Naruto. Sakura. I'll meet you in the Hokage's office. And then he teleports them away. Sasuke isn't too surprised that Kakashi doesn't stick around. He spends just a few moments talking to one of the civilian nurses, explaining the situation, no doubt, and then he's gone. Sasuke tries not to feel any resentment for that. It's not hard. He can't really feel much more emotion than exhaustion. They check his temperature, run tests involving chakra that he's not even close to comprehending, have him take off his shirt so they can examine any remaining puncture wounds from the needles. It's standard. Everything makes sense. But it doesn't stop him from staring at the wall, from not looking at a single soul, from trying deep breath exercises and then cringing because there's such a distinct hospital smell. The last time he was in here, everyone was dead. They still are. They give him a drug to make him sleep, and Sasuke doesn't wake up for 2 more days. He knows his teammates have been here when he wakes. There's a bouquet of flowers in a vase, and a covered container of ramen, now cold, sitting on the bedside table. He doesn't eat it. He throws up, instead, dry heaving into the toilet and trying desperately to block out the scent of antiseptics. To be honest, Sasuke's more impressed by the flowers. He knows Sakura and Ino aren't friends anymore, haven't been for years, though he wasn't sure why they stopped. It says a lot. Kakashi doesn't show when they let him out of the hospital, later that day. Naruto doesn't, either. But Sakura does, and she gives him a big grin as he leaves his room. "Hey, Sasuke. Glad to see you up," she chirps, and Sasuke takes one moment to curse the universe for giving him incredibly cheerful teammates before he shoves his hands in his pockets and falls into step with her. "Why are you here?" She pouts. Probably trying to look cute. "You've been asleep. And I thought someone should walk you home." He stiffens at the thought, but either Sakura doesn't notice or she doesn't comment. "I don't know where Kakashi-sensei is, but Naruto's off doing something with Iruka-sensei. So I thought I'd pick you up." Sasuke thinks he's grateful for it. Maybe. But he doesn't say it, instead giving a sharp nod. "I need to sign out." "Right." Sakura babbles the whole way, and Sasuke feels himself unlistening, just slightly. Apparently, Team 10 had taken on a C rank since they left, but it was nothing like theirs. Team 8 hadn't yet. Kurane and Asuma were probably dating. Kakashi seemed very distracted about something. He signed his name neatly and led the way out, but the scent of the hospital stayed with him. "Sasuke." The Uchiha sighed, focusing his attention on Sakura again. She giggled, blushing a little and biting her lip. "We don't have to rush back, you know. We could do something. Shopping. Lunch. Fine." The word is out of his mouth before he even thinks about it, and Sakura looks as surprised as he feels. Really? He doesn't want to go home, and he desperately needs to chase the scent of the hospital from him. Sakura's perfume, flowery and strong, is a great start to that, and sure, he wouldn't mind food. He hasn't eaten in a few days, after all. Sasuke shrugs. "Sure. Lunch sounds good." Nothing stayed down at the hospital. She beams, bright and happy in a way that he's never seen her before, and hooks her arm into his, faintly dragging him off. "They're going to a barbecue place," is what Sasuke manages to grab from her excited chatter, and the rest he can barely absorb. He's tired. Hopefully he doesn't fall asleep right in his food. He'd never ever hear the end of it from Naruto if he did. Sasuke's barely paying attention to where he's being dragged. He does trust Sakura not to kill him, so it takes him a moment before he realizes someone's calling his name. "Uchiha. Oi, Uchiha." He blinks, and realizes he's in the restaurant. He's been here before, sometime, somewhen, he recognizes it faintly, and Shikamaru is calling him. Sasuke schemes the room before he manages to spot him, sitting at a table with Chuji and waving him down. The boy obliges, pulling Sakura along for the ride as he approaches the other genin. Nara, he greets, stuffing both his hands in his pockets. What? Shikamaru grins. I heard you two had a rather eventful C-rank. Want to join us and share? Sasuke exchanges a glance with Sakura. She grimaces, and he frowns slightly. It doesn't sound tempting. Chuji pipes up, swallowing his bite. My family owns the restaurant. Eat with us, and it's on the house. The hole he's been slowing burning in the Uchiha clan savings weighs on him for a moment, and the boy sighs, before plopping down next to Chuji. Fine. Sakura could probably tell you better than me, anyway. She blushes, even as Shikamaru turns to give her a considering look. Oh yeah. Sasuke is so very relieved when Sakura takes him up on that prompt. She talks about Tajuna, how they had been tricked, the situation in Wave, everything. She speaks of Haku and Zabuza and how they were ultimately tragic, in the end, a tragic pair of missing nin that maybe should have lived another day. He slowly eats his barbecue and doesn't say a word. Not until Chuji reaches over, giving his shoulder a slight, comforting squeeze. You were really brave, Sasuke, he says, and Sasuke pauses. Doesn't know how to respond to that. Sakura nods. He was, wasn't he? She pauses, and looks down. When I saw you lying there, it was dash. His food drops back on his plate. He gets up, shoving himself away from the table, and the three there stare at him with wide eyes. I have to get home. Hey, Uchiha, we can change the topic if you want dash. Shikamaru is already hurrying to reassure him, but Sasuke ignores the Nara, turning to Chuji. Thank you for the meal, he says, and half manages a flicker of a smile for the boy, before he turns and he's gone. It reminds him of his exit from a few days ago, leaving his team in the dust, but this time he manages to get away. He ducks through the trailing crowds of people, ignores every single call of his name and greeting tossed his way, until everything starts to thin. He slows. The closer and closer he gets to the Uchiha district, the more notable it becomes. There's no reason for anyone else to come here. It's deserted, and soon, he's the only one walking down a quiet street. Sasuke rarely goes into most homes. Only when he needs something, like when he starts to outgrow his current clothes, or he's out of shuriken, or something. Anything. There's only one home he returns to every single day. He raps on the door to said house. Takes off his shoes and sets them by the entrance. I'm home, he says quietly into the empty building, filled with nothing but ghosts, and shuts the door behind him. Check the description for the links to the author.